Hey there, this is Lols. Recently there's been some comments asking me why am I using fire instead of wind when I'm playing a staff sage. Well, if you are new to this channel, let me explain again. Previously I was a two-hand warlock and I've already built fire over there, so to change over to a wind element when I'm playing sage is a whole new level of commitment and adjustment for my enhancement and also my card. So for the convenience sake, I am just gonna use fire for both sides, so I can just interchange anytime I want, hassle free. Having said that, playing a fire sage might come with a little bit of disadvantage because for the staff side on SE skill level 6, it adds an additional 15% of water and wind element. Couple that with elemental charge 2, there is another 15%, so total up 30% of additional wind element, plus another 15% in wind element resistance reduction. So total that up, it will be a 45% additional wind element damage. So as a wind staff sage, definitely it will be more advantageous when it comes to dealing DPS onto water-based monsters and also bosses. But if let's say Fire Sage, which I am playing it right now, how can I maximize my DPS? How can I close out the 45% elemental gap? So this is what I have. Instead of looking at this skill, I am going after this skill, Elemental Knowledge, that adds damage to fire monster and water monsters by 24%. Now, this is just based on my own understanding on how all this element works. Even if today I am playing a Wind Sage, at SE6, I might not go for this skill, because if you realize at this stage right now, adding additional 15% of wind element will only equates to about 6 to 7, maybe 8% of actual damage output. But when it comes to adding additional damage to fire monsters and water monsters by 24%, that is gonna bring the output even higher. So this is why I am using this as my contract choice, and well, since I'm a fire sage, there is no other choice for me. So having 24% added to fire monsters and water monsters is helping me greatly, because as a fire sage or fire player, dealing damage to fire monsters is incredibly weak, and dealing damage to water monsters is slightly weaker. But when we are comparing it to a wind type, definitely there is a big gap, because wind deal 175% to water and fire deal only 90% to water. The good thing is that I have fire enhancement, so that I can actually close up the gap to equal to 175 or probably even more, depending on how much fire I got. Okay, so this is one way for us, or for me as a fire sage, to increase my DPS further when I'm dealing damage to water monsters. Let's use water monsters for example in this case, right? Because we are comparing it to wind, and the most advantageous element that the wind can deal to is water based. So I'm gonna use water in this video's example. Alright, so this is one skill, and the next thing is Spiderweb. Right, so Spiderweb, although it is under the book sage column, the description says that upon using Spiderweb, it will be able to deal additional 30% fire attribute attacks. Okay, last for 3 seconds, and it will be gone after taking 10 times of fire damage. So Firebolt deals 10 times damage. This is a perfect example whereby increasing fire damage with Spiderweb is one of the crucial things that a fire sage can do. Now let's take a look at my details over here. If you scroll down to attribute counter, you can see that I have 39% bonus damage to fire and 49% bonus damage to water. So these are added up with SE skill, elemental knowledge, that's 24%, and then for skill there is another 10% over here, monster knowledge, that increases additional 10% to all elements. Okay, so 24 plus 10, 34, and then I have scuba mask, there's another 10%, 44%, and last but not least, in the card awakening, I have 5% fire and 5% water. So for water base, that is 49%. That's almost additional 50% more damage. So in this example over here, I'm going to use Kraken to do this test and see what we can do over here in terms of our DPS. Firstly, I'm going to do a test with Elemental Charge 2 first, because it adds 15% and also reduce the resistance by 15%. So let's take a look at this. Okay, with and without Spiderweb. Okay, so for 1 minute each, let's go. So looking at this, my DPS should come to about 20 million. Yep, 20 to 21 million. So for charge 2 without Spiderweb is 21 million. Of course, the damage for Sage is always fluctuating. I'm gonna resummon my spirit, and 1 minute, here we go. Times whereby casting Spiderweb, although it's supposed to increase the DPS of the next bolt by 30%, but because of the frequency of casting Spiderweb, it may affect the total DPS to be slightly lower. Seems that we'll be looking at another 21 million-ish. Doesn't seem to have too much of the increment over here. So this is about 20 to 21 million also for charge 2 with Spiderweb. And now I'm gonna test with the speed build with and without Spiderweb also. Okay. So for this, I will be casting Elemental Field first and then let it auto for 1 minute. Seems like the speed build is dealing slightly more damage over here, not too much, but about 22 million as compared to charge 2 dealing 21 million without Spiderweb. Speed build with Spiderweb, 1 minute, let's go. And we are coming at about 24 million on the speed build with Spiderweb. Because this may not always be the case whereby the speed build is more advantageous than charge 2, because I've done more tests, and in one occasion it happens that charge 2 with Spiderweb is dealing more DPS than the speed build with Spiderweb, just by a little bit. So it really depends on the situation. I will toggle between these two builds because sometimes boss fight can be pretty hectic. I need to be running around a lot, either because the boss is dashing all over the place, or there's a wheel pulling the boss to other areas. And playing with speed build means that I need to be pretty much stationary, standing within the field in order to cast fast. If the boss is running all over the place, I will be out of the field most of the time. So in that situation, charge through will be a better choice. And that's how a Fire Staff Sage can maximize the DPS even though we are not playing wind as the main element. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below, and as always, see you next time. Bye bye.